I don't get how someone could disrespect their partner so much by saying they want to have a relationship with someone else while still married. I think if a married couple talks about this, they should either get divorced right away or try to fix things with a therapist. But my wife chose a different path. She said, "If you really love me, you'll let me do this." How many husbands have heard those words from their wives? That's what my wife said during our 5th anniversary dinner, and then everything fell apart. So, how did we get here? My beautiful 29-year-old wife told me she wants to have affairs, plain and simple. It seemed clear and simple to me. I planned a fancy dinner at one of our favorite nice restaurants. I set up everything nicely with fancy tablecloths and good wine. I even bought her a diamond necklace she wanted for her birthday. I spent almost $1,000 on that necklace, and now I need to figure out how to get my money back. During dinner, I noticed she seemed uneasy. Our usual easy conversation felt forced. She seemed distracted, looking around the room like she was searching for something or someone. Normally, she'd look at me when she talked, but tonight she avoided my eyes, focusing on the table or her wine glass instead. After we finished eating and poured more wine, she finally started talking about what was bothering her. She said, "There's something I've been wanting to talk to you about. It's been bothering me for a while now, and I feel like I need to address it." Setting down my wine glass, I paused, wondering what could be troubling her. Her voice took on a serious tone, indicating the importance of the matter. What was it that was preoccupying her? My mind immediately jumped to the possibility that she was about to discuss the prospect of starting a family. We broached the topic before, numerous times over the past 3 years, but opted to postpone parenthood until we had made more progress in our careers and saved up a larger nest egg to cover the expenses. Well, we'd achieved those goals, and I was eager to expand our family. Was she ready too? I hoped fervently that this was the topic she wanted to discuss. However, her avoidance of eye contact suggested otherwise. Typically, if someone wants to discuss starting a family, they'd wear a wide grin and maintain unwavering eye contact. What was going on? "Darling, there's something I want to discuss that you might not agree with at this moment, but it's something I've carefully considered and it's important to me." Andrea, my wife of 5 years, paused before speaking. "I feel the need to venture beyond our relationship and explore life. I believe it will help me understand myself better and ultimately make me a better partner for you." I was left dumbfounded, a whirlwind of confusion, bewilderment, and anger sweeping through me simultaneously. "What the hell? I'm sorry." "What?" I interjected, pressing my hands firmly onto the table, locking eyes with her, my face a portrait of utter perplexity. She kept looking away and said, "I want to see other people, Rob. I want you to agree beforehand so there are no surprises." I felt frustrated and my heart started beating faster. I asked, "What do you mean by connections, Andrea?" She didn't give a clear answer. She said, "Maybe different types." I felt more confused and struggled to breathe. I asked, "Can you explain more, please?" I spoke directly, holding my breath. "Well, I'm considering seeing other men." "What the hell are you talking about, Andrea? You want to cheat and expect me to be okay with it before you go off and sleep with other guys?" Good Lord. My voice escalated and I realized some nearby diners might have overheard. "Lower your voice, dear. No need for everyone to eavesdrop on our conversation," Andrea urged, attempting to hush me. I realized she intended to drop this piece of news on me in a public setting to prevent a scene. She caught me off guard, really got me. I felt nauseous, my stomach twisted in knots. All I could manage was a bewildered, "Why? Why do you want to see other men, Andrea?" "Well, I feel I need space to discover myself." "Discover yourself? What does that even mean, Andrea? Are you suggesting you want to sleep with other men? Are you leaving me?" "No, darling, I'm not leaving you. There are various reasons why I feel compelled to do this. Please trust me. I love you a lot. You're the one for me. I imagine us having a future together, starting a family and growing old together. But right now, I feel like there are parts of me I haven't explored yet. I just want your permission to figure these things out. It'll only be for a few months, and then I'll be fully yours again. Rob, your wife. I promise." This was basically the worst thing I could imagine happening. It happened during our 5th anniversary dinner. She expressed her desire to sleep with other men. She expected me to passively accept this arrangement, promising to resume our marriage once she felt satisfied as if nothing had transpired, but assuredly as a better wife for it. I was dumbfounded, speechless. I couldn't muster a response. My mind went blank. I couldn't even breathe. Standing up, I delicately placed my napkin on the table, picked up my wine glass and finished its contents, carefully set it down, then turned and left the restaurant. Where are you going? I don't know, but I think you need to take a cab home. I left the restaurant, found my car, started it up, shifted into gear, and simply drove off. I had no destination in mind. My head throbbed with pain, originating from the back, but spreading throughout. Time and location became a blur. The following morning, awakening in my car, I struggled to recognize my surroundings. Exiting the vehicle, I stretched and yawned, attempting to piece together the events of the previous night, hoping it was all a terrible dream. Desperately needing to urinate and craving a large cup of coffee, I realized I had to sort out my thoughts before returning home. I relieved myself in the bushes a few yards away from my car, then returned to my vehicle, started the engine, and set off in search of the coffee I desperately needed. I grabbed some breakfast to accompany the coffee, all the while contemplating how to address this issue. Allowing my wife to engage with other men was out of the question. This could definitely mean the end of our marriage. After what she told me last night, I started to wonder if I really knew her at all. Maybe she was having some kind of breakdown, not seeing things clearly, and getting lost in her own ideas. I wasn't sure. I'm not a doctor, just a confused husband. When I checked my phone, I saw it had been turned off all night. Turning it on, I saw lots of missed calls and texts from Andrea, worried about where I was and how I was doing. I didn't feel like going home at that moment, but I knew I had to face it eventually. Ignoring her attempts to reach me, I continued my journey. Over a few cups of coffee accompanied by some eggs and bacon, I devised a rough plan outlining what I needed to do. Time to head home. Upon pulling into our driveway, Andrea emerged from the front door to greet me. "Sweetheart, where were you all night? I was so worried about you. I feared you might have had an accident and ended up in a ditch somewhere." She leaned in for a kiss, but I stepped back and informed her. "I'm going to freshen up with a shower first. Then we need to have a serious conversation. We have to discuss your journey of self-discovery, as you mentioned last night." I brushed past her and headed upstairs to the bedroom, shedding the suit I'd worn through the night. Taking a long, hot shower, I mulled over some of the things I needed to say to her. Uncertain of the outcome, I felt compelled to take action, to gauge whether we still had a marriage or if this was her way of bidding farewell. Perhaps it was a test of my devotion to her. I was completely in the dark about her thoughts. I thought I loved her. Hell, I married her. She professed her love for me, too. We had a lavish wedding and a memorable trip to Europe to celebrate. I've never strayed, never even considered other women. But she doesn't seem as committed as I am. Not at all. Thankfully, we don't have any kids yet. Whether we'll have any in the future depends on what happens in the next few days and weeks. After changing into clean clothes, I went to the kitchen to make another cup of coffee. I also grabbed a notepad and pen. Andrea was already there, watching me closely. Even though I tried to stay calm on the outside, I felt really upset inside. I poured myself some coffee and sat down. "Okay, Andrea, can you explain again why you want to have relationships outside of our marriage?" I asked. She said, "Sweetheart, I just want to feel valued as a woman. Right now, I don't feel like my needs are being fulfilled. I need the freedom to explore and see if I can find that fulfillment independently. So are you suggesting you want to temporarily leave me to figure out what you want?" "No, darling. I'm not suggesting leaving. I intend to stay right here with you in our home, but I need autonomy over my time and actions. When do you plan to start this exploration and establish your new schedule, Andrea?" "Well, I suppose any time works for me. Do you support my decision to do this?" "No, I don't support any of this, Andrea. When we got married, we promised to be together forever, as partners and lovers. And now you want to find closeness with someone else. What should I think about this? I feel like you're ready to leave our marriage." "Sweetheart, it's not like that. I'm trying to find a bond between us that we've been missing for a few years now. Our lives are all about work. We don't have as much fun as we used to. I don't feel valued in the way you used to when we first got married." "Valued? My God, everything I do is for you. I've been working tirelessly so we can build a family and achieve the dreams we talked about when we got married. This house is nearly paid off, for heaven's sake." I could feel my anger rising and had to calm down before I lost my temper completely. "Are you considering sleeping with other men?" That question stopped me in my tracks. I had to address it head-on before anything else. "Darling, I'm not sure what I'll do yet. If the circumstances in person are right, I might consider it. So you're planning to cheat on me?" "It's not about cheating on you, Rob. It's not cheating if you're aware of it. Oh goodness, I was feeling incredibly stressed at that moment, and I had to take a deep breath and exhale slowly to maintain my focus. Got it. I paused for a moment, taking a long sip of my coffee, wishing it was something much stronger. I needed to control my emotions and get through this. So, let me get this straight. Andrea, you want to go out with other guys, have dates and maybe sleep with them, and you want to do all this while still living here with me. Am I understanding this right? Sweetheart, it's not that simple. I'm not sure. Andrea, it sounds pretty simple to me. Are you saying we should do things together during this time? Remember, you're still married. Are we just pausing our marriage for a while? Do you expect us to still be intimate while you're doing this? Of course, Rob, we're a family, you and me. I love you dearly and want us to stay a family. This is just something I feel I need to do occasionally to figure things out for myself. How often do you plan on doing this, Andrea? Every weekend, a couple of times during the week, nightly. How much exploring are you planning? I'm not sure yet, darling. Why are you so concerned about the frequency? Well, I need to decide what I'm going to do while you're dating and having fun with your new potential partners. I don't have a boyfriend, Rob, at least not yet. I took a deep breath and exhaled slowly. I was on the verge of losing my temper and had to exert considerable effort to avoid damaging something at that moment. Andrea, I need to clarify some things in my mind before we leave today. Have you truly decided that this is what you want? Have you considered the impact on our marriage? Andrea nodded but didn't directly address my question. It seemed she hadn't fully considered how I might feel about her decision. She hadn't considered that I might have my own thoughts on the matter. Then she said, "If you love me, you'll let me do this." And I replied, "Andrea, if you really love me, you won't do this." That was the line I drew. "Dear, I've made up my mind about this. You can't change it." That was the moment. This ultimatum would decide what happens next. Our marriage was about to change forever. She didn't think about what might happen enough to see that planning to cheat is a big problem in marriage. Now, I had to act on my plan. "Okay, here's what I need. And these are rules I won't change," I said, explaining what she had to do if she wanted to see other people. "You'll have to find somewhere else to live while you're dating other men. I won't live with you while you're doing that, and don't even think about bringing them here. That's not happening." "Darling, where should I go?" "Well, maybe you could stay with one of your friends. What about Jessica, that lady from school you've been hanging out with a lot? You said she's divorced and lives alone. Give her a call and ask if you can stay with her for a bit. If that doesn't work out, you can look into renting a short-term apartment, but you'll have to cover all the expenses, utilities, and your car payments." Andrea, a grade 3 teacher at the elementary school, earned a comfortable income. Meanwhile, I worked as a forensic auditor at a large firm, also enjoying a good salary supplemented by annual bonuses. "It seems I may not be meeting all your needs in our relationship," I acknowledged. Andrea met my gaze for the first time, sensing victory in our ongoing struggle. Continuing, I pondered, "If you're suggesting an open marriage, then I suppose I'll need to be understanding while you pursue other affairs. Will you still return home to me, Andrea, once it's all said and done?" "Darling, I understand. I love you deeply. You're my spouse. I want us to start a family together. But what do you expect me to do while you're with other men? Do you want me to stay faithful? Should I just wait at home for you to finish with your boyfriends and then welcome you back? Is that what you think, Andrea? Have you thought about how this will affect me? I want you to be my spouse. Only you. Whatever happens while I'm away won't matter when I come back to you. I want you to be my partner and the father of our children." I found it strange. She seemed okay with not bringing other men into our home for intimacy. Maybe she saw that as a win. She can hang out with other men without me saying anything. Okay? But for now, we need to talk about some things here. Please move your stuff to the spare bedroom. I'm not sure if I can sleep in the same bed with you right now. Your plan hurts too much. It feels like you're leaving me without saying it outright. So, tell me, what should I think about this? Andrea's silence made me think she was starting to realize that I wouldn't just go along with this. Maybe she was surprised that I insisted she leave our bed. But what did she expect? Did she really think I would just let her go off and cheat, then come back expecting everything to be normal? No way. Andrea had become close to another teacher, Jessica. I thought Jessica might be influencing Andrea's foolish ideas. Jessica, a divorced fourth-grade teacher at the same school as my wife, had been kicked out by her husband for cheating with multiple people. At 35, Jessica was attractive, but she had a habit of getting involved with any man who showed interest. I thought Jessica might be encouraging Andrea to explore before starting a family. But for me, the reality was, if Andrea kept going like this, we wouldn't have a family. Probably, we'd get divorced. I stood up from the table and started to leave. Andrea asked, "Is this the end, Rob? Are you telling me to leave?" "Yeah, that's how it looks right now." "Andrea, don't misunderstand me. I don't want this at all. We made a commitment to be faithful when we got married. You're intending to break that commitment, so what do you expect me to do? Do you expect me to sit idly by while you engage with other men? If you desire an open marriage, then I suppose I have the same right." Andrea was left speechless, and I departed before the situation could escalate into a heated argument. I grabbed my car keys and headed out of the house. "Where are you off to, honey?" "I'm not entirely sure yet, but remember to move your belongings to the spare room and start searching for a place to stay. Just remember, you don't get to betray our marriage until you've moved out." I turned and departed, slamming the door with more force than usual. If it came down to it, I was ready to be the one to leave. But given that my wife instigated this messed up situation, she could deal with the inconvenience. Moreover, I suspected that Jessica, that promiscuous woman, was influencing Andrea into this. So let her take responsibility. Despite my urge to drive to Jessica's place and confront her, I had to restrain myself. On Monday morning, I woke up early and left my office before Andrea even got out of bed. With Andrea's intentions looming over me, I knew I had a lot of work to do on my plan. I refused to tolerate her infidelity. If she wanted to end our marriage, then I had to do something. The idea of her cheating on me really hurt. I couldn't just sit back while she was with other people and then act like everything was okay when she came home. What if she got sick or pregnant from someone else? That couldn't happen. So, my first step was to call my lawyer. He's a friend who usually deals with our normal legal stuff, like buying houses and making wills. I didn't think he'd handle the divorce himself, but I knew he could recommend a good lawyer. And he did. He told me about a great divorce lawyer at his firm. My meeting with her was scheduled for that afternoon. It was a challenging meeting, but my new attorney proved to be a skilled litigator and well-versed in the laws of our state. I didn't intend for our divorce to be contentious. In fact, I was content with a fair 50-50 division of our assets. Both of us had little when we married and had worked hard to build a comfortable life and family together until now. So I was satisfied with splitting things evenly. I'm not entirely heartless. The necessary paperwork would be prepared and held until I had evidence that my wife was indeed involved with other men. Until then, this was merely a preliminary step on my part. The week dragged on slowly. I made an effort to minimize my time at home and instead went out every evening, often heading to the gym to relieve stress. I observed that Andrea was frequently with Jessica, and on Thursday, she informed me she'd be staying with her for a few weeks until finding a better living arrangement. I understood it would provide her a convenient spot to spend time with her boyfriends without interruption from me. Jessica would probably be hosting her own partner simultaneously, making it quite the gathering. Good Lord, this situation was a mess. On Saturday, after being married for 5 years and 1 week, my wife confirmed her decision to engage in extramarital relations. By packing her belongings into her car and leaving, just before departing, she hesitated, saying, "Honey, now I want to leave. Can't we find a way to work things out so I can stay? I love you deeply, and I truly want to improve our marriage." I told her, "Andrea, if you really loved me and wanted our marriage to be better, you wouldn't do this. I want you to stay with me, but I can't let you be with other men while you're still my wife. I love you, but I can't accept that. Let's go to marriage counseling together and try to fix things. If you won't, I don't know what to say. Please, leave." As she packed her things into her car, I went to the hardware store and got new locks for the house. I changed 3 locks and updated the security code for the garage door. On Saturday night and all through Sunday, I stayed at home, looking at the walls, hoping Andrea would realize what she was doing and come back. The following week proved exceedingly challenging. Each day, I visited the gym and resumed running in an attempt to alleviate my stress. At times, I felt profoundly despondent, contemplating pleading with her to come back. Mentally, I struggled to comprehend that my wife was choosing to engage in extramarital affairs while we remained married. I grappled with feelings of inadequacy, questioning if my worthlessness drove her to flaunt her infidelity. It seems that way, doesn't it? I conducted online research on the psychology of infidelity and the reasons behind spousal cheating. I was surprised to discover that approximately 40% of married individuals engage in infidelity. What's more surprising is that nearly 90% of them choose to remain in their marriages. Infidelity, whether by one or both partners, is often silently accepted by the other spouse. Factors such as children often come into play, making it easier for the betrayed spouse to overlook the infidelity, especially if it's discreet and carry on as if nothing is amiss. Many cheating wives claim to still love their husbands and families, something they feel is lacking at home. Many women engaged in affairs express that managing a household is demanding. With the daily responsibilities of maintaining a family and attending to children's activities, leaving little room for excitement in their intimate lives with their husbands. They crave the thrill of being created by a partner focused solely on them without routine conversations about household chores or children immediately after intimacy. Perhaps the secret to a successful marriage lies in treating one's spouse with the passion and attention typically reserved for a lover, without resorting to divorce, simply relishing in the physical connection. Should I consider approaching my wife at the club she and Jessica plan to attend? Infidelity occurs for various reasons: lack of satisfaction, lack of passion, emotional disconnection between spouses, and sometimes as a form of retaliation for a partner's infidelity. Some women claim they cheat to salvage their marriages. Researchers who study cheating in marriage say that, but I'm not sure if it's true. Marriage is complicated. You have to work at it all the time to keep it strong. Open marriages, where both people know they can see other people, usually don't last long. People start to get hurt because they make emotional connections with other people. This often leads to divorce. Polyamorous relationships, where people have multiple partners, are also complicated and stressful, especially when there are kids involved. Plus, there's always the risk of getting diseases. Personally, I think it's best for people to be faithful in marriage. If both people don't agree, they shouldn't be married. They should find someone else who wants the same things. Did I neglect my wife and push her away? Did I fail to give her enough attention while I pursued what I believed was necessary to build a life for us? Was I mistaken? I'm not sure. What I do know is that I was unhappy when my wife left our home to be with other men, seeking something she felt I couldn't provide. I didn't see her actions as beneficial to our marriage, and so another slow week passed by. I refrained from reaching out to my wife, and Andrea only messaged me once, requesting that I forward her mail. Her messages lacked any hint of a desire to salvage our marriage. They were strictly business. It was evident she was moving forward with her plan to seek out companionship, perhaps even multiple partners, for enjoyment. I contemplated shadowing her from the apartment to wherever she and Jessica went, curious about her rendezvous. Despite driving by the apartment multiple times, I resisted the urge to stop, realizing I couldn't subject myself to such surveillance. I needed to allow her to make her own choice. Otherwise, she'd never truly return to me. With each passing day, the likelihood of her reconciliation dwindled. Simultaneously, the longer she delayed her return, the less inclined I became to welcome her back. After a month of minimal communication, Andrea unexpectedly appeared at the house. Unable to unlock the door with her key, she resorted to ringing the doorbell and knocking. I answered. "Andrea, what brings you here today?" "Hey, my key isn't working." "What's going on?" Andrea asked. "I changed all the locks," I said with a serious face. When Andrea tried to come in, I stopped her. "What do you need, Andrea?" "I came to get some stuff I left when I moved in with Jess," she said. Once again, she wasn't here to see me, just to get her things. It felt like she didn't care about my feelings or how much this hurt. It seemed like I was just in her way. Did she really think I wouldn't care about her being with other guys and would just take her back? "There are some boxes in the garage with your belongings that I gathered from around the house." "Why did you do that, honey?" "I'll be returning home in a few months, so there's no need to pack everything up." I allowed her into the house. After all, it was still partly hers. We headed to the garage where she could see numerous boxes of her belongings ready for her to take. "How long do you plan to stay with Jessica?" "She's been really supportive. I'll be staying with her for a while. I'm confident it'll only be for a few more months, and then I'll return and be an even better wife to you, honey." "We can start a family," she said. I couldn't help but scoff at that. I didn't believe that sleeping with other men would make her a better wife or mom. But for some reason, maybe because of Jessica's influence, she thought it would. She must have known it didn't make sense. I had my own ideas about it. "So, have you found a boyfriend yet?" I asked. Andrea blushed, and I knew the answer. "Jess and I have been on some dates with guys from our club, but that's about it." "How do you like being close to your new boyfriends?" Her face remained red as she rummaged through boxes for her things. knowing the answer. I left the garage and returned to the kitchen for coffee and the newspaper. A few minutes later, she emerged with a bag of belongings scanning the kitchen. I think she anticipated the house being in disarray while she was away. But it was quite the opposite. I had arranged for a cleaning service to come 3 times a week, so the place was immaculate. She seemed disappointed by the absence of mess. There were no stacks of dishes, no empty beer bottles, no heaps of laundry. The house was well maintained, while I struggled to keep myself composed, grappling with the fact that my wife had left me for other men. "Is there anything else you require, Andrea?" I could sense her curiosity about what was happening in her absence. "So, honey, have things been all right since I started spending time with Jess?" "I'm okay. Work's been keeping me occupied. I've been traveling quite a bit." "Honey, have you been getting out at all or just staying home alone?" There it was, the question I'd anticipated. Remember what they say, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Time for me to subtly challenge her. I've been keeping myself busy. I joined a cycling group that has organized rides twice a week. We start biking from a certain spot and ride together for 40 to 60 miles. It's been fun. I've met a bunch of new people, and we usually get a beer and a burger afterward. Biking that far makes you hungry. Because of all the stress she's causing me, I've lost 15 pounds in the last few weeks. Exercise might be the only thing keeping me from totally breaking down. I made sure not to drink too much alcohol because it wouldn't have helped. "That's nice," she said, but her tone made me think she was more interested in my activities than she let on. I thought maybe she wanted to know if I was meeting other women. Driving away from home, Andrea probably started to realize that her plan wasn't going like she thought it would. Perhaps her devoted husband met someone else and decided he didn't want to stay married to her. Perhaps her quest to find a boyfriend to compensate for the lack of attention in her marriage may have more serious consequences than she imagined. I found out that Andrea was dating 2 men from the club she attended with Jessica. She had a close relationship with both of them several times, but they weren't interested in her anymore. After these meetings, they were glad to leave Jessica's apartment. Both men were married and just looking for casual pleasure, and Andrea fulfilled this role. After 2 months, I realized that my marriage was over, and I needed to move on to the next stage of my plan. Andrea hadn't reached out to me in weeks, indicating she wasn't considering me or our marriage. It seemed she was pursuing her own desires without showing any interest in returning home. Even if she did, it would likely come with numerous conditions, and I wasn't certain I'd welcome her back. My concerns deepened when I discovered she had gone on vacation to the Dominican Republic with one of her boyfriends during the school break. They enjoyed a getaway in the sun, focusing on tanning and other activities. If that was her idea of strengthening our marriage through infidelity, then Jessica's slander about my poor conduct as a husband, along with neglecting my wife, had influenced Andrea before she opted to end our marriage. Now she resides in a 2-bedroom apartment with her discontent divorcee friend, and her standing among colleagues and family is deteriorating. When Andrea's mother discovered she had traveled to the Caribbean with another man, she reached out to me, assuming our separation stemmed from arguments. The message that her daughter left me for other bed contacts caused her to distrust. I told her to talk straight with Andrea to find out what's really going on. Andrea's mom asked her, "Andrea, why did you leave your house? What's happening between you and Robert? Is he treating you badly?" "No, Mom, he's not treating me badly," Andrea replied. "But he doesn't give me the excitement I need right now. Rob doesn't make me feel special. I really want that feeling. I don't feel attractive to him, so I look for it somewhere else. I want some fun before Rob and I have kids. I need this for now, but I'll go back to him when he appreciates me more, and everything will be okay." "You'll see," Andrea said confidently. Her mom was shocked by her words. "Honey, if you have affairs with other men, Robert won't want you as his wife. Cheating will ruin your marriage. Don't you understand?" her mom pleaded. "I'm sure Rob loves me, Mom. He understands why I need this. I'll come back home in a few months, maybe a year at most, and then we can have children," Andrea insisted. "Andrea, you need to wake up and go home now, or there won't be a marriage or a husband to return to. And there won't be any children with him. Do you understand?" her mom urged. "I know Rob loves me, and I know what I'm doing," Andrea replied stubbornly. Even her mother couldn't convince her otherwise. So I decided to take matters into my own hands. It had been about 3 months since Andrea left, and it was time for me to move on. I mustered up the courage to ask one of the women I biked with out on a date. I just wanted some female company and a break from the boring routine I'd been stuck in. Since my wife left, my days were just work, the gym, biking, and sleep over and over again, waiting for this mess to end. That was the extent of it. A part of me hoped Andrea would come to her senses, put an end to this nonsense and return home. But that seemed unlikely. I had to confront the reality. She probably wasn't coming back, at least not as the wife I married or the woman I thought I knew. It seemed she was relishing her newfound freedom, seeking the excitement and validation as a woman that was lacking in our marriage. Those are the things psychologists claim motivate married women to cheat on their husbands. So I attempted to arrange a meetup without coming off as overly eager or solely interested in hitting on someone. I realized that could be awkward. My aim was to build rapport within my cycling group and vice versa before considering asking one of the women out. I didn't want it to seem like a sympathy date. Given the close-knit nature of our cycling circle, most of my friends were aware of my separation from my wife, and it's possible some knew about Andrea's active dating life. In a smaller city like ours, word travels fast and gossip inevitably circulates. When I invited a woman named Diane to join me for drinks and a meal, I was pleasantly surprised when she accepted. I aimed for a casual and relaxed atmosphere without attaching too much significance to the outing. I suggested we go kayaking on the lake near the city. Before dining, having had experience with kayaking some years back, I assured Diane it would be enjoyable despite her lack of prior experience. She expressed interest in trying it out, so our plans solidified into a date. We started with outdoor fun and then went for food and drinks, which was really great. Diane had a lot of fun kayaking. We paddled for about 10 miles in 3 hours. Then we went to a nice restaurant for a yummy meal and drinks. I got a steak with fries and a tasty local beer, while Diane had pasta with white wine. It was chill and relaxed. Later, we got ice cream from a stand by the water. I drove her home and told her how much I enjoyed the day. I almost kissed her cheek, but she surprised me by kissing me on the lips, which was nice and unexpected. To not seem too eager, I waited until our regular Tuesday biking meetup to ask her out again. Diane surprised me by saying she thought I didn't have a good time because I hadn't called. I told her I actually had a great time, especially being with her. We planned to meet on Saturday for golf. I read online that there's a balance in texting and calling someone you're interested in. It's not good to always be texting or calling because it can make you seem too needy and push the other person away. So I decided to text Diane on Friday, telling her I was excited about our golf plans for Saturday and suggesting a time for me to pick her up. She said she wanted me to pick her up, so we arranged to meet in the early afternoon. We had a great time playing golf, even though we're not pros. That night, we had dinner at my place. We grilled barbecue and drank a bottle of wine. Later, when it was time for me to drive her home, she surprised me. She took the car keys and put them on the kitchen counter, then asked to see the bedroom. The next morning, I woke up next to an amazing woman. She had dark, beautiful long hair, captivating green eyes, and flawless skin. There was a small scar on her chin from a past bike accident, but it only made her face more interesting. She was tall, around 5'11", with a slim figure, probably weighing about 140 pounds, and she was in great shape. Diane worked as a nurse in the children's department of the local hospital. She was genuinely caring in everything she did. There was something about her that drew me in from the moment we met. We enjoyed breakfast together on my patio, but soon the conversation shifted towards me and my plans, particularly regarding divorce. It was a delicate topic as I sensed the direction it was heading. Diane sought clarity on my intentions before investing emotionally in our relationship. A reasonable request indeed. After all, no woman wants to invest time in someone who might reconcile with their estranged spouse in a matter of weeks. As I recounted the peculiar way Andrea had explained her departure to Diane, her expression confirmed what I had suspected all along. Andrea wasn't coming back, and that realization served as the gentle push I needed to proceed with the next phase of my plan. On Monday morning, I phoned my attorney and instructed her to engage her investigator for the task. My aim was to ascertain the extent of my wife's involvement with other men prior to initiating divorce proceedings. It turned out she had been seeing several men, mostly married, and they frequented Jessica's apartment for post-bar and club gatherings. Andrea was served with the divorce papers, initiating a cascade of events. That night, she showed up at my doorstep holding a large brown envelope. Her expression troubled. "What brings you here tonight, Andrea?" "Honey, someone delivered these documents to me today." "Why did you file for divorce?" "I told you I'd be home soon. I even considered coming back this week. We could start working on the baby we discussed." I asked her to come inside and sit in the kitchen. It's too late for that, Andrea, I reminded her. I told you clearly not to leave, but you left anyway. Honey, I told you I needed to find myself and feel confident, she argued. I couldn't help but laugh. So, do you feel confident now? Have you thought about your attractiveness and relationships? Have you met interesting people and had enough intimacy? I started to open up. Because it seems like you have. I haven't heard much from you since you left. You didn't even call me on my birthday. Maybe because you were with one of your boyfriends in the Dominican Republic. Your own mom called me, asking why you didn't call on Mother's Day. Oh my God, have you been with someone this whole time? Honey, I love you a lot, and I realize I might have gone too far. I'm coming home today. No, you can't. What do you mean? Honey, I'm still your spouse, and this is still my home. I'm going to Jess's place to get my stuff, and I'll be back in a few hours. No, you can't. Did you read the papers you got? There's a court order saying you can't be within 500 feet of this house until the divorce is done. Technically, you're breaking the order. I won't tell anyone, but you have to go, and we'll deal with everything in court. Andrea started to understand how serious our wedding vows were. Love, honor, cherish, faithfulness, and the promise not to be with other people. This house doesn't mean much to me. Andrea, if you want it, you can have it. My half is worth around $150,000 since it's almost paid off. If you prefer, we can sell it and split the proceeds. It's that simple. But you're not moving back in, at least not while I'm here. I escorted her to the door, closed it, and locked it behind her. A month later, we managed to avoid going to court and settled the divorce quietly. Andrea received half of our assets as she was legally entitled to. The house was sold and I moved forward. Andrea resumed her new routine. I learned from a friend that the charter school where she worked had advised her to keep her social life more discreet. Some parents were uncomfortable because she was dating a lot of men in the area, and they didn't want her to influence their kids. Most of the complaints came from the moms who didn't like the idea of her teaching their kids. It's possible that some of the dads were among the men she was dating. Later, she found out she had a sexually transmitted disease, but it wasn't fatal. She had to take a break from having sex for a year, but it wasn't a big worry because she was already pregnant. It turned out that one of the men she was with caused the disease. She wasn't careful about taking her birth control pills and drank too much alcohol. We didn't know who the girl's dad was, but she looked a lot like one of the school teachers who was married. My divorce from Andrea was finalized and I was free from her. It's been about a year since things went wrong with Andrea. I bought a new house, got promoted at work, and most importantly, Diana and I started living together. We're happy to share two big things. 1, we're getting married next summer, and 2, we're expecting a baby by Christmas. Second story, how do I encourage my 38F sexually embarrassed husband 37M to be more open with me? Need some advice on how to react. I've 38F been with my husband 37M for 10 years. He has never been the sexual type with me as he is completely embarrassed on his preferences. Yes, you read that right. Still 10 years later with the same person I've tried so hard to be open to his interests, exploring his things, but to no avail. He would rather hide behind closed doors when I'm out or when in asleep. And I do truly believe he has some issues stemming elsewhere causing this nature. I'm becoming more and more accepting that he will not grow out of this, and we are transitioning more into roommates at this point. We haven't had sex in 5 years, and unfortunately, I am a very sexual person and love to explore. Today, I come back after being away for a few days and notice a bottle of lube in the shower. I figure my partner must have used it while I was gone. But what bothers me is that they didn't talk to me about it, neither before nor after. They seem to be avoiding the topic altogether. Instead of confronting them directly, I decide to drop hints by moving a few of my things in the shower, hoping they'll notice and bring it up themselves. I don't want to make them feel pressured or embarrassed, so I'm trying to be subtle. But honestly, I'm not sure what's the best way to handle this situation. I want to encourage them to talk about it with me, but it seems like they're either embarrassed or not interested in discussing it. I know there might be deeper issues at play here, and maybe we should consider seeing a therapist to help us navigate through them. TLDR. Husband too embarrassed to engage in sex or sexual exploration and prefers to mess around solo when I'm not around.